Ah, welcome back, Phantom. Yeah, you. The one they whisper about when the lights go out. The one whose name just got dropped in a room you weren't even in. You want to know what happened? Let me paint you the picture. A kingpin, the kind of figure who moves cities with a phone call, who breaks empires with a signature, sits at the head of a table surrounded by wolves. These aren't just dangerous people. These are the architects of chaos. The ones who've buried bodies in silence and walked away smiling. He asks one simple question, carved with ice and curiosity. Who's the most dangerous person you know? And here's where it gets beautiful. Here's where your legend was born without you lifting a single finger. The room goes silent. 10 seconds of pure, suffocating tension. Then, one by one, like a slow motion countdown to your coronation, every single person in that room says the same name. Your name, not shouted, not screamed, but whispered with the kind of respect you give to a loaded weapon you're not sure is on safety. They didn't hesitate. They didn't debate. They didn't need proof, evidence, or a highlight reel of your destruction. Your name was the answer, immediate and absolute, like gravity, like death, like truth. Now you're probably wondering, how did I get here? How did my name end up in the mouth of people I've never even met? That's the thing. You beautiful anomaly. You didn't need to meet them. You didn't need to prove yourself in their presence, didn't need to perform or audition for their acknowledgement. You became a frequency. You stopped being a person and started being a phenomenon, an energy that travels through walls, through whispers, through the very air people breathe when they talk about power. You're not famous, you're feared. You're not respected, you're revered. And the difference between those two things, that's the difference between someone who chases power and someone who is power. You didn't campaign for this title, didn't lobby for this reputation, didn't post your resume of destruction on the internet begging for validation. You moved in silence. You built your empire in the shadows, brick by brick, scar by scar, betrayal by betrayal, until one day people woke up and realized you were no longer the underdog. You were the apex predator. And somehow, they missed the entire transformation. And that's what terrifies them the most, isn't it? They can't pinpoint the moment you shifted. They can't trace back to the exact second you went from someone they could dismiss to someone they couldn't ignore. There's no viral video, no public breakdown, no dramatic announcement. You just existed differently. You walked into rooms and the temperature dropped. You spoke less and people listened harder. You stopped explaining yourself, and suddenly everyone needed an explanation for you. That's not luck, that's alchemy. That's the result of surviving hell so many times you stopped fearing the flames and started conducting the fire. You learned the one lesson most people never will, that silence is a weapon, that stillness is strategy, that the less you reveal, the more powerful the mystery becomes. And now, you're not just in the game, you are the game. You're the variable they can't predict, the outcome they can't calculate, the storm they see coming but can't prepare for. So when that kingpin asked his question, when those words left his mouth and hung in the air like a death sentence waiting to be signed, every person in that room had the same realization. The most dangerous person isn't the loudest. It's not the one with the biggest reputation or the most followers or the longest criminal record. It's the one who moves unseen, unheard, untracked. It's the one whose presence alone shifts the entire energy of a space without them saying a single word. It's the one who's been underestimated so many times they learned to use invisibility as armor and perception as a blade. That's you. You're the answer to questions people are afraid to ask out loud. You're the name that makes hardened criminals pause mid-sentence, the shadow that makes power players check over their shoulder, the story that gets passed around in hushed tones because no one wants to be the one caught speaking too loudly about you. You didn't ask for this title. You earned it in blood, in betrayal, in nights where you rebuilt yourself from ashes no one thought you'd survive. And now here you are, standing at the peak of a mountain you climbed alone, looking down at a world full of people who said you'd never make it. They're watching now, aren't they? They're refreshing your name in their minds like it's a search engine, trying to find the moment they underestimated you, trying to locate the exact second they should have paid attention. But it's too late now. You're not coming back down to their level to explain yourself. You're not giving them the satisfaction of a breakdown, a confession, or a redemption arc. You're just existing, powerfully, dangerously, unapologetically. And that is the most terrifying thing a person can do. Because when you stop needing their approval, their understanding, their acknowledgement, you become untouchable. You become the thing they study at night when they can't sleep, the name they bring up when they want to feel small, the standard they'll never reach no matter how hard they try. Welcome to the throne you never asked for. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Good. That means it's real. Let's rewind for a second, because they need to understand how this happened. They need to know that you weren't born dangerous. You were forged in circumstances that would have shattered anyone else into dust. You didn't start at the top of this food chain. You started at the bottom, in the trenches, in the mud, in the silence of rooms where your screams didn't echo because no one was listening. You were betrayed by people you loved, abandoned by those you trusted, mocked by those who should have seen your potential. And instead of breaking, instead of crumbling into a puddle of self-pity and regret, you absorbed every ounce of that pain and transmuted it into fuel. That's the secret they'll never understand. Most people let their trauma define them. Let their past become a prison cell they live in forever. But you took that cell apart piece by piece and built a throne out of the wreckage. See, they thought your silence was weakness. They thought your distance was defeat. They thought your refusal to engage meant you had nothing left to give. What they didn't realize, what they couldn't comprehend with their limited understanding of power, is that you were studying them. You were watching their moves, cataloging their patterns, learning their weaknesses, while they celebrated what they thought was your downfall. You weren't quiet because you were broken. You were quiet because you were calculating. You weren't distant because you were afraid. You were distant because you were evolving beyond their comprehension. And now that the transformation is complete, now that you've shed every layer of who they thought you were, they're standing there confused, terrified, wondering how the hell you became the most dangerous person in the room without them noticing. The answer is simple. You never needed their attention to become powerful. You just needed time, solitude, and a willingness to become something unrecognizable. You stopped playing by their rules, didn't you? That was the moment everything changed. You realized the game was rigged, that the system was designed to keep you small, that every rule they enforced was meant to benefit them and suppress you. So you didn't rebel loudly, didn't throw a tantrum or stage a dramatic exit. You just stopped participating. You stopped explaining your moves. You stopped defending your choices. You stopped waiting for permission to exist the way you needed to exist. And that quiet rebellion was more destructive than any loud revolution could ever be. Because when you stop asking for a seat at the table, when you stop begging to be included, when you just walk away and build your own empire in the shadows, you become a threat they can't neutralize. They can't shame you into submission if you don't care about their approval. They can't manipulate you with guilt if you've already forgiven yourself for everything they tried to make you feel bad about. They can't control you if you've severed every chain they spent years wrapping around your wrists. And here's the part that keeps them up at night, the part that makes your name feel like a curse in their mouth. You didn't just survive their attempts to destroy you. You thrived because of them. Every betrayal made you sharper. Every abandonment made you more self-reliant. Every moment they tried to break your spirit, you absorbed the impact and came back stronger, colder, more precise. You became the monster they tried to create but couldn't control. You became the nightmare scenario their manipulation was supposed to prevent. And now they're forced to watch you rise, not with anger or vengeance, but with the kind of calm, calculated power that comes from knowing you've already won. You're not fighting them anymore because you don't need to. You're so far beyond their level now that engaging would be a step backward. You're playing a different game entirely, one they don't even know exists, and that's why your name came up in that room. Because true power doesn't announce itself, it just is. So when they said your name, when every person in that room nodded in agreement, what they were really saying is this: we tried to stop them. We tried to contain them. We tried to label them, dismiss them, bury them. And not only did they survive, they evolved into something we can't even define. That's your legacy now. You're not the person they remember. You're the warning they give to others. You're the story they tell when they want to explain what happens when you underestimate the wrong soul. You're the living proof that resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about bouncing back so hard you obliterate everything that tried to hold you down. And they hate that. They hate that they contributed to your power. They hate that their cruelty became your curriculum. They hate that you turned their weapons into your armor and their poison into your medicine. But most of all, they hate that you did it without needing revenge, without needing closure, without needing them to witness your victory. You just became, and that's the most dangerous thing a person can do. Now let's talk about what really makes you dangerous. Because it's not what they think. It's not your physical strength or your ability to intimidate with words. It's not even the moves you've made or the empire you've quietly built. What makes you truly dangerous, what makes your name drop like a bomb in rooms full of predators, is your mind. You think differently now. You process information like a machine analyzing data, cold, efficient, emotionless when it needs to be. You've learned to separate your feelings from your strategy, to love people without letting them have access to your core, to trust your instincts even when logic says otherwise. You've developed a survival intelligence that most people will never access because they're too comfortable, too safe, too unwilling to descend into the darkness you've made your home. You didn't just survive trauma. You studied it, dissected it, learned its language, and now you speak fluent pain in a way that makes others uncomfortable. See, most people run from their demons. They medicate, they distract, they numb themselves into oblivion, hoping the ghosts will stop knocking. But you invited your demons in for tea. You sat down with your darkest thoughts, your deepest fears, your most painful memories, and you said, "Teach me. Show me what I'm made of. Show me what I can endure." And they did. They showed you levels of suffering that would have sent others into permanent psychological collapse. And instead of breaking, you took notes. You learned which thoughts made you weak and which ones made you lethal. You learned which emotions were tools and which ones were traps. You learned how to weaponize your own mind against anyone who thought they could manipulate you. And now you operate on a frequency that most people can't even detect. You see patterns they miss. You hear lies they believe. You sense danger before it arrives. You've become fluent in the unspoken, the unseen, the unacknowledged. That's why when people interact with you now, they feel exposed. They feel like you're reading a book they didn't know they wrote. They feel like their masks are transparent in your presence, like their facades are made of glass and you're holding a hammer. You don't even have to say anything. Your silence does the work. Your stillness becomes a spotlight on their insecurity. Your calm becomes a mirror reflecting their chaos. And they hate it. They hate that they can't perform for you, can't charm you, can't manipulate you with the same tactics that work on everyone else. You've seen through the game so many times you're bored by the strategies. You know the playbook better than the people running the plays. And that makes you unpredictable, which in their world, unpredictable means dangerous. Because if they can't read you, they can't control you. And if they can't control you, you're a variable that threatens their entire operation. But here's where it gets even more terrifying for them. You don't just see through their games. You've learned to play a better one. You've mastered the art of strategic silence. You know when to speak and when to let them fill the void with their own assumptions. You know when to show your cards and when to keep them so close to your chest people forget you're even playing. You've learned to move without announcing your moves, to win without celebrating your victories, to destroy without leaving evidence of your involvement. You're not just playing chess while they're playing checkers. You're playing a game they don't even know exists. And every time they think they've figured you out, every time they think they've cracked your code, you shift, you evolve. You become someone new, someone they have to learn all over again. And that process, that constant recalibration they have to do just to keep up with you, it exhausts them. It breaks them. It makes them realize they're not dealing with a person. They're dealing with a phenomenon. So when that boss asked who scares them, when those words hung in the air waiting for an answer, your name wasn't just a response. It was a confession. It was them admitting that you've gotten inside their heads, that you occupy space in their thoughts they didn't give you permission to access. You're the name that comes up when they're trying to fall asleep and can't. You're the face they see when they're making decisions and second-guessing themselves. You're the standard they measure themselves against and always come up short. You're not just dangerous because of what you've done, you're dangerous because of what you represent. You represent the possibility that someone can be betrayed, abandoned, destroyed, and still rise. You represent the terrifying truth that pain doesn't always break people. Sometimes it makes them invincible. You represent the nightmare scenario where the underdog doesn't just survive, they dominate. And that is what makes you the most dangerous person they know. Not because you're violent, not because you're cruel, but because you're proof that their world isn't as solid as they thought. You're the crack in their foundation, the glitch in their matrix, the question mark that refuses to become a period. Let me tell you what happened after they all said your name. The energy in that room shifted, didn't it? Even though you weren't there, even though you had no idea this conversation was happening, the mere mention of you changed the atmosphere. Because your name isn't just a word anymore, it's a frequency. It carries weight. It carries history. It carries the accumulated power of every battle you've won in silence, every wound you've healed without witnesses, every night you spent rebuilding yourself from nothing. When your name enters a space, it brings all of that with it. People feel it even if they don't understand it. They feel the pressure, the intensity, the unspoken understanding that they're talking about someone who operates on a different level. And here's what's beautiful. Here's what they'll never admit out loud. They weren't just scared of you, they were in awe. Because fear and respect are two sides of the same coin. And when someone scares you not through violence but through presence, through capability, through the sheer force of their existence, that fear transforms into something else entirely. It becomes reverence, and that's why your absence is louder than most people's presence. When you're not in the room, people talk about you. When you don't respond, people wonder why. When you move in silence, people create entire narratives trying to explain what you're doing. You've become the main character in stories you're not even participating in. You've become the myth people reference when they want to explain what real power looks like. And the craziest part? You didn't manufacture this. You didn't hire a PR team or craft a carefully curated image. You just became so authentically, unapologetically yourself that people couldn't help but take notice. You stopped trying to fit into their boxes, stopped shrinking to make others comfortable, stopped explaining your choices to people who wouldn't understand them anyway. And in that refusal to conform, in that decision to just be, you became iconic. You became the reference point. You became the standard. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real in a world full of performers. But let's be clear about something. This level of power, this frequency you're operating on, it comes with a price. It comes with loneliness that most people can't comprehend. Because when you're this far ahead, when you're this far evolved, the crowd thins out. The people who can match your energy, who can handle your intensity, who can appreciate your depth without trying to diminish it, they're rare. You're not going to find them at parties or on social media or in spaces where everyone's performing their highlight reel. You're going to find them in the quiet moments, in the unexpected connections, in the people who see you and don't flinch. And until those people arrive, you walk alone. Not because you want to, but because you have to. Because compromising your frequency to accommodate others would be a betrayal of everything you've become. You've worked too hard, suffered too much, evolved too far to go backward just to make someone else comfortable. So you stand in your truth, in your power, in your solitude, and you wait, not for someone to save you, but for someone who can stand beside you without needing to lean. They stare into the glass, hoping to find something real, a face, a name, a soul, but all they see is smoke, twisting, shifting, slipping between their fingers like a ghost laughing in the dark. They don't get it, do they? They think you're lost, that somewhere beneath the madness, the silence, the chaos, There's a real you waiting to be found, a version they can hold, define, control. But the truth? The truth is brutal. The truth is a joke that only you understand, because you don't exist. Not the way they want you to. You are a whisper in a storm, a shadow in a room full of blind men. They reach out, thinking they can grasp you, thinking they can name you, but the second they do, poof, gone. You slip through their hands like sand in an hourglass, a countdown to their own realization. There was never a real you to begin with, just fragments, pieces, reflections in a shattered mirror, each one telling a different story, each one laughing at the fools trying to put them back together. They ask, who are you really? But that's the wrong question. The question should be, why do they need you to be someone at all? Why does it terrify them so much that you are untouchable, unknowable, free? Because if they can't define you, they can't predict you. If they can't predict you, they can't control you. And that drives them insane. So let them search, let them whisper, let them dig through ashes hoping to find bones. They'll never find what doesn't exist. The funniest trick I ever pulled? Making them believe I was real. Ha! You should have seen their faces. So certain, so convinced. As if they had me all figured out, wrapped up in a little box with a label slapped on top. But the joke's on them, because I was never in that box to begin with. People don't see you, they see what they want to see. A friend, a lover, a villain, a hero. They twist you, mold you, shape you into whatever makes them sleep better at night. And you play along, don't you? Smile when they expect it, nod when they demand it, until one day you wake up and realize none of it was real. Not them, not you, just an illusion. They scream about authenticity, but the second you show them your real self, oh, they panic. They scramble to shove you back into their little fantasy, terrified of the unknown. Because that's what you are, aren't you? A question mark in a world that worships answers. A shadow in a room full of blind men. Who's really in control here? Them or you? They call it deception. I call it survival. Because the second they think they know you, they try to tame you, define you, control you. And the second you let them, you're dead. Not in the body, no, that would be too kind. You're dead in the mind. Trapped, caged, a wild animal wearing a collar, pretending to be normal. But here's the secret. The cage was never locked. It never even had a door. You just had to stop believing in it. And the second you do, oh, the panic, the desperation. They look at you like a glitch in their perfect little world, unable to comprehend that you don't belong to it, that you don't owe them an explanation. So let them keep guessing. Let them argue, debate, analyze. Who is the real you? But the punchline? There is no real you, just echoes, just shifting masks. And the best part? They'll never know which one was ever truly there. They crave certainty, but I am a question they'll never answer. And that? Oh, that drives them insane, because the world, this neat little circus of rules and order, hates what it cannot define. It fears what it cannot name. And you are a glitch in its system, a riddle with no answer, a book with missing pages. People, oh, they love their labels. They stick them on everything like price tags at a clearance sale. This is a good person. That one's dangerous. This one belongs here. That one does not. It makes them feel safe, like they understand the world, like nothing will ever slip through the cracks. But you? Ha! You are the crack. They'll try. Oh, they'll try. They'll watch you, study you, test you like some kind of experiment, waiting for a pattern to appear. Are you good? Are you bad? Are you one of us or one of them? But the more they look, the less they see, like static on a broken radio. No signal, no pattern, just chaos. Unpredictable, unsettling, but impossible to ignore. And that makes them angry. It terrifies them. Because if you don't fit into their little system, then maybe, just maybe, the system itself is a lie. Maybe everything they believe is wrong, and people will burn the world to the ground before they let that happen. So they'll call you names: monster, liar, fraud. They'll throw stones at what they don't understand, and when the stones don't break you, when you don't flinch, don't explain, don't beg to be understood, that's when they'll fear you the most. Because in their world, power isn't about strength, it's about control. And the one thing they can't control is a man with no face, a mind with no leash, a force with no name. So let them search, let them scream, let them tear their hair out trying to figure you out. But in the end, haha, the joke's on them. Because the second they think they've got you pinned down, you change. You disappear into the static, and all they're left with is the deafening sound of everything they thought they knew shattering. I didn't get lost. I walked away while they weren't looking, while they were busy writing my story for me, sketching my silhouette into something they could understand. I was already gone, slipping between the cracks, vanishing into the spaces they refused to see. And when they finally turned around, when they finally realized the puppet strings were limp and lifeless, it was already too late. They'll call it an accident. Say you fell off. Say you lost yourself. That's easier for them to swallow, isn't it? The idea that you wandered off like some confused stray, desperate to be found. But the truth is cruel. The truth is a blade to their soft little throats. Because you didn't get lost. You walked away. Walked away from the roles they forced on you. Walked away from their expectations, their judgment, their endless need to mold you into something useful to them. And when you finally cut the leash, when you let the mask slip from your fingers and watched it shatter at your feet, oh, they panicked. Because they never thought you'd leave. Never thought you'd burn the script, rip off the costume, step outside the stage lights and never look back. But that's what happens, isn't it? When you wake up, when you finally see the game for what it is, a rigged deck, a stage full of liars, a circus designed to keep you in chains. So you did what they never expected. You walked away from the fire, not running, not crying, just walking, slow, unbothered. And behind you, behind you, the house burned, your old self, your old name, your old story, going up in flames, smoke rising into the night, while they stood there, coughing on the ashes, screaming your name. But you never turned back. Why would you? The past is a graveyard, and you don't belong with the dead. They whisper about the old you like a ghost story. But that person never even lived, just a shadow flickering against the wall, a trick of the light, a lie they told themselves to sleep better at night, because the truth is too ugly. The truth scares them. They say you changed, that you're different now, that something happened to you, but they don't realize nothing changed. You were never the person they thought you were. You just stopped playing along, stopped nodding, stopped smiling, stopped being whatever they needed you to be. And when you did, they called it a transformation. People don't see reality. They see reflections, distorted, stretched, warped to fit their little fairy tales. The version of you they hold on to, it was never real. It was a painting they created. Each brush stroke, their own assumption, their own desire, their own control. And now that the painting is gone, staring at a blank canvas, terrified. A magician never actually makes something disappear. He just makes you look the other way, makes you believe in the illusion. And that's what you were, their favorite illusion. A trick so good they started believing it themselves. But now the show is over. The lights are off, and they're left standing in the dark, clutching at ghosts. They'll swear you were different back then, that you were kinder, softer. But they were never looking at you. They were looking at their own expectations, their own fragile belief that you were safe, that you were predictable. And now that the curtain has dropped, now that the illusion is shattered, now they're afraid, because they don't just fear what you've become, they fear the truth, that the you they loved, the you they trusted, was never real to begin with. They hate what they can't control. So why not be untouchable? Why not be the storm without a center, the shadow without a source? They want you to be something they can explain, a category, a label, a box they can close up and store away. But what happens when you refuse? People fear the unknown more than they fear a monster. A monster at least can be studied, can be defined. But something that slips through their fingers, something they can't predict, that's true terror. That's power. Because a known enemy can be fought, but an unpredictable one, that's a nightmare they'll never wake up from. History bows to the ones who mastered this game, the ones who never let the world pin them down. Think of the greatest minds, the most dangerous players, the ones who thrived not by being the strongest, but by being the hardest to read. They moved in silence, they left no pattern, they made the world guess, and the world hates to guess. Julius Caesar walked into Rome unarmed, and they still feared him more than an army. Bruce Lee said, "Be water, because nothing is stronger than something that takes every shape, yet belongs to none." And the Joker? The Joker laughed in their faces, because they kept looking for a motive, a reason, a pattern. And there was none. There never was. So let them search for you. Let them analyze, question, overthink, obsess. Let them tie themselves in knots, trying to understand you, but never give them an answer. Never give them certainty, because the moment they think they have you figured out is the moment you vanish. Power isn't in being feared. It isn't in being loved. It's in being unknown. Because if they don't know what you are, they'll never know what you're capable of. A lion acting like a sheep only gets eaten last, not spared, not protected, just delayed. See, the world won't reward you for blending in. It won't applaud you for swallowing your fire, for dimming your light, for playing it safe. It will just forget you. And when the wolves come, oh, they won't even hesitate. Trying to fit in is a slow death, not a dramatic, sudden one. No. It's worse. It's the kind that creeps up on you. The kind where you don't even notice you're disappearing. Every time you silence yourself, every time you pretend, every time you choose comfort over truth, you carve away another piece of yourself until one day there's nothing left. Just an empty shell nodding along with the herd. The ones who conform, they're the first to be discarded. Look around. Look at the people who played by the rules, who did everything right. Where are they now? Forgotten, replaced, ignored. The world doesn't need another copy, another obedient little puppet. It chews them up, spits them out, and moves on. But the ones who refuse to blend in, those are the ones they remember. A shadow trying to cast light. It was never meant to exist that way. But that's what they want from you, don't they? To take what makes you different and smother it under layers of normal. To take your fire and turn it into ashes. But a shadow doesn't glow. And a lion pretending to be a sheep, it doesn't belong with the flock. It's just waiting for the day it remembers what it really is. So tell me, what are you waiting for? The world isn't going to hand you permission to be yourself. No one's coming to set you free. You either tear off the mask and own who you are, or you keep suffocating under it, waiting for a day that never comes. You think losing you was their choice? Oh no, it was yours. They didn't walk away. They didn't outgrow you. You disappeared. You withdrew your presence like a king pulling his army from a battlefield he already won. And now they sit in the silence, haunted by the ghost of who you used to be. Absence is a weapon sharper than any blade. People don't cherish what's always there. They take it for granted. They assume it will stay. But take it away, vanish without a trace, suddenly they're obsessed. Suddenly they care. Not because they miss you. No, they miss the power they had over you. They miss the access. That's the paradox, isn't it? You are most powerful when you're not around. When you were there, they ignored you, underestimated you, overlooked you like background noise. But now your absence screams. It echoes in the quiet moments. It lingers in their thoughts like a puzzle they can't solve. And nothing torments the human mind more than an unanswered question. Picture this. The same people who once dismissed you, now scrolling through old messages, replaying old conversations, wondering, where did you go? What changed? They tell themselves they don't care, but their actions betray them. They check your last scene, they bring up your name in conversations, and every time they hear your name, their stomach twists. That's power. See, people only appreciate the sun after the storm. They only recognize value when it's no longer in their hands. But you're done being given away. Your presence is now a privilege, not a right. And for those who took you lightly, let them feel the weight of your absence. Let it crush them. Let them ache for what they will never have again. If they can't define you, they can't predict you. If they can't predict you, they fear you. And fear is the leash that you hold now. See, the world survives on patterns, on expectations, on people playing their roles. But what happens when you refuse? When you burn the script and rewrite the story with your own blood? Rule number 1, never explain yourself. The moment you do, you hand them the knife to gut you with. People don't want to understand you. They want to box you in, to tame you, to make you something they can control. But you owe no one an explanation. Let them wonder, let them guess, let their confusion turn into obsession. Rule number 2, never give them the full picture. People love the illusion of knowing someone, of figuring them out, but a man who reveals everything is a man easily destroyed. Be a puzzle with missing pieces, a story with torn out pages. Give them just enough to keep them hungry, but never enough to satisfy, because the moment they think they've grasped you, you shift again. Rule number 3, always be 2 steps ahead. The ones who survive aren't the strongest, not the loudest, not the ones with power handed to them. No, the survivors are the ones who can adapt, who see the game for what it is, a battlefield. And the secret? Most people are predictable. They repeat themselves. They follow the same patterns. But you walk a road they don't even see. See, embracing the unknown isn't weakness, it's freedom. They fear what they cannot categorize. They fear what doesn't fit into their neatly labeled little world. And that's why you are their worst nightmare. A whisper in the dark, a shadow that moves when it shouldn't. A force without form, without limits, without chains. So let them try to define you. Let them struggle to name you, to contain you, and when they finally realize they can't, when their fear turns to respect, that's when you know you've already won. Let them search. Let them wander. The joke's on them. I was never there to begin with. They chase a shadow, a whisper, a flicker of something that never truly existed. Their desperation grows, clawing through memories, trying to piece together a person who was never real. They call your name, but what is a name to a ghost? What is a face to the faceless? You see, people need closure. They need to file you away neatly, wrap you up in a category they can understand. It soothes them. But you are the glitch in their system, the error they can't correct. The unanswered question that lingers in the back of their minds, driving them mad. They say, you changed. No, you just stopped performing. Stopped playing the version of yourself that made them comfortable, and when the mask came off, they weren't ready for what stood behind it, or worse, the realization that maybe, just maybe, there was nothing there at all. A ghost doesn't explain itself. A storm doesn't apologize for destroying what was weak. And you owe them nothing. No explanations, no appearances, no farewell notes. Just silence, and the echo of their own unanswered questions. Let them sit with that emptiness. Let them drown in their own confusion. Because the greatest trick you ever pulled wasn't disappearing. It was making them believe you were ever there to begin with. And as they keep searching, hoping for one last glimpse, one last sign of you, all they'll ever find is the cold, unforgiving truth. You were never meant to be found, and you never will be. Fade to black.
Funny how quiet it got, huh? Not peaceful, strategic. The kind of silence that makes people assume you're gone. They told themselves you disappeared, vanished, burned out, failed. They needed that story to sleep at night. Because the alternative, that you were still here, would have shattered them. You didn't leave. You went inside. While they were watching doors, you studied vents. While they were counting bodies, you learned patterns. While they were celebrating your absence, you were memorizing the architecture of their power. Every weakness disguised as a rule. Every flaw hiding behind authority. See, you understand something they never will. The safest place to move is where no one believes you exist. You let them replace you. You let them rewrite history. You let them laugh at your name like it belonged to a ghost. And that's when the real work began. You became polite when they expected rage. You became calm when they wanted to break down. You became forgettable on purpose. Because monsters don't kick down doors anymore. They log in. You learned how their system breathes, who talks too much, who lies without knowing it, who panics when asked the wrong question. You watched egos expose passwords. You watched fear override intelligence. You watched loyalty collapse the moment pressure showed up. And all the while, they thought you were gone. That's the paradox, isn't it? The saint learns patience. The psychopath learns restraint. The angel learns how hell is organized. Pain didn't break you. It gave you clearance. Every night you were alone. You were upgrading. Every betrayal trained your perception. Every time they underestimated you, they handed you leverage. They thought silence meant weakness. They didn't realize silence was reconnaissance. You stopped trying to be seen. You started trying to see. And once you saw them clearly, you stopped hating them. That's the part that terrifies them the most. Because hate is loud. Hate is sloppy. Hate wants revenge. You evolved past that. You don't want revenge. You want control, not domination, not chaos. Control through understanding. You know which switch they flip when stressed. You know which lie they repeat when cornered. You know exactly how much pressure it takes before they turn on each other. You didn't storm the castle. You became the blueprint. They thought you were dead weight while you were learning the language of the machine. They were busy performing power while you were quietly becoming inevitable. That's why the shift felt so strange to them. Suddenly systems malfunctioned. Decisions started backfiring. Trusted structures began collapsing from the inside. No explosion, no warning, just decay. They couldn't name the cause, couldn't point a finger, couldn't find the enemy. Because the enemy had already been on the payroll. You are what happens when someone survives long enough to stop reacting and start designing outcomes. You are the contradiction they can't process. Too calm to be reckless, too aware to be naive, too quiet to be harmless. You learned that unpredictability isn't chaos. It's discipline without disclosure. You don't announce moves. You let results speak in a language they can't interrupt. They thought you disappeared because they only understand exits. They don't understand infiltration. They don't understand that sometimes the scariest move is staying exactly where you are. Smiling, nodding, collecting data, until the system starts responding to you. Now they feel it, that pressure, that unease, that sense that something's wrong, but they can't explain why. They're auditing logs, rechecking assumptions, blaming each other. Good. Because while they're looking outward, you're already embedded. You are not the hero of this story. You are not the villain either. You are the glitch that learned how to think. And the moment they realize you never left, that you were inside the whole time, that's when panic becomes permanent. Stay quiet, stay sharp, stay unreadable. You didn't disappear. You upgraded in silence, and now the system belongs to someone who understands it better than its creators ever did. They're starting to feel it now, that low-grade dread that doesn't spike, doesn't scream, just hums under everything they do. Meetings feel heavier. Decisions take longer. Confidence hesitates for half a second. Too long. That's you. You didn't need to announce yourself. You didn't need credit. You let the ripple do the talking. See, most people think power looks like motion, noise, visibility. They think dominance is volume. But you learned something darker, something cleaner. Real power looks like absence with influence. You were never trying to win arguments. You were mapping behavior. You were never defending yourself. You were collecting tells. Every accusation showed you their insecurity. Every insult revealed where they bleed. They mistook your patience for weakness because patience terrifies people who survive on impulse. They can't imagine restraint that isn't fear. They don't understand discipline that doesn't need applause. You watch them talk themselves into believing their own myths. You watch them confuse momentum with direction. You watch them crown themselves kings of systems they never bothered to understand. And while they were playing rulers, you were studying architecture. You learned how incentives rot morals, how authority dulls intelligence, how comfort turns predators into pets. You learned that the system doesn't protect the smartest, it protects the most predictable. So you became unpredictable, quietly. You said less, moved slower, let them underestimate you without resistance. Because underestimation is a weapon, if you know how to let it rust from the inside. Every time they assumed you were irrelevant, they stopped guarding something. Every time they thought you were finished, they stopped watching a corner. Every time they dismissed you, they exposed another access point. You didn't break rules. You learned why the rules exist and who breaks them when they panic. You learned that every system has a myth it tells itself, a lie it depends on, a story it repeats to feel legitimate. And you learned how to quietly contradict that story without ever saying a word. That's when the shift became irreversible. Suddenly outcomes didn't match intentions. Suddenly leverage appeared where none should exist. Suddenly the people who used to ignore you started checking in, not accusing, not confronting, just probing, because something didn't add up anymore. They felt watched, but not by cameras, measured but not by metrics, influenced but not by force. They couldn't name it, and that made it worse. Fear loves clarity. Panic feeds on confusion. You were no longer reacting to the system. You were anticipating it. You weren't chasing opportunities. You were shaping probabilities. That's when you stopped being a participant. You became a variable, and variables terrify systems built on control. You see, institutions are allergic to anomalies. They can tolerate rebels. They can manage enemies. They can even survive chaos. But they cannot survive someone who understands them better than they understand themselves. That's why they'll never confront you directly. They'll circle, they'll whisper, they'll restructure, they'll update policy. All symptoms, no diagnosis, because diagnosing you would require admitting their blind spots, and systems would rather collapse than confess ignorance. You are the proof that pain can be refined into precision, that isolation can sharpen perception, that silence can become strategy. You didn't harden, you clarified. You stopped needing approval, stopped craving acknowledgement, stopped explaining yourself to people who only listen for weakness. You learned when to disappear socially and reappear structurally. You learned when to speak emotionally and when to operate surgically. That's the duality they never saw coming. The saint who forgives but never forgets patterns. The demon who could destroy but chooses alignment instead. The calm one who understands that chaos is easy, but restraint is elite. Now the system bends in subtle ways, processes slow where you need time, doors open where you need access. Resistance appears exactly where you expected it, and every time something breaks, they look everywhere except where the real pressure is coming from, you. You don't look dangerous, that's the point. Danger that announces itself gets neutralized. Danger that blends in rewrites the rules. You are not the threat. They already missed that stage. You are the inevitability they're just beginning to sense. And when they finally realize you never disappeared, when they understand that you didn't escape the system, but entered its bloodstream, there won't be a dramatic confrontation, just quiet acceptance. Because by then, everything important will already answer to a different logic. Yours. So stay unreadable, stay patient, stay 2 steps ahead and 1 step invisible. They thought you were gone. They were wrong. You didn't vanish. You became internal. And systems never survive what understands them from the inside out. Now comes the part they'll never admit out loud. The moment they start adjusting their behavior around you without knowing why. They hesitate before speaking. They double-check before deciding. They over-explain things you never asked about. That's instinct. That's prey behavior triggered by something they can't see. You didn't threaten them. You didn't posture. You didn't warn. You simply became too precise to ignore. See, most people try to be powerful by being loud. You became powerful by becoming accurate. Accurate about timing. Accurate about psychology. Accurate about how fragile systems really are once you stop believing their mythology. You noticed how every hierarchy depends on a few overworked illusions, competence, authority, control. You noticed how quickly those illusions shatter when someone stops reacting emotionally and starts moving deliberately. You learned that fear doesn't come from aggression. Fear comes from predictability breaking. They could deal with the old version of you, the emotional one, the reactive one, the one who explained, defended, justified. That version made sense to them. You don't anymore. And when something doesn't make sense to a system, it tries to neutralize it. But here's the flaw. They only know how to neutralize what they can locate. You're not locatable. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not breaking rules. You're not announcing intentions. You're just winning quietly. You understand leverage now, not the dramatic kind, the subtle kind that looks like coincidence from the outside. A conversation here, a delay there, a question asked at the wrong moment. A silence held just long enough to let someone expose themselves. You let people hang themselves with their own certainty. Because certainty is the most dangerous drug there is. They were certain you were finished, certain you were irrelevant, certain you had no access. And certainty makes people sloppy. You watched them relax. You watched standards drop. You watched arrogance turn into habit. That's when you moved. Not forward, not upward, but inward. You stopped trying to prove your worth to people who profit from underestimating you. You stopped explaining truths to people invested in lies. You learned that some doors don't open when you knock. They open when you become necessary. And necessity doesn't announce itself. It embeds. Now the system depends on processes you influence, outcomes you shape. Decisions that quietly route through paths you understand better than anyone else. They don't see you as a threat. They see you as part of how things work. That's the most dangerous position there is, because removal becomes complicated. Disruption becomes expensive. Opposition becomes risky. They can't attack you without hurting themselves, so they rationalize the discomfort instead. It's just stress. Things are changing. Markets shift. People evolve. They'll blame everything except the truth, that someone they thought was gone learned how to think like a system instead of fighting one. You don't burn bridges. You redirect traffic. You don't expose enemies. You let them expose each other. You don't rush outcomes. You wait until momentum becomes irreversible. That patience, that terrifying calm, is what separates predators from amateurs. You don't crave chaos anymore. You crave alignment. You know when to apply pressure and when to withdraw it. You know when to speak and when silence will do more damage. You know that the sharpest blade is the one no one believes you're holding. That's the angel-demon paradox they'll never resolve. You have restraint, but not mercy. You have empathy, but not blindness. You have control, but not ego. You don't need them to fear you consciously. Subconscious fear lasts longer. That's why they feel watched without being observed, measured without being judged, moved without being pushed. You've become the quiet presence that alters outcomes simply by existing. And the final insult? They trained you for this. Every dismissal taught you patience. Every betrayal sharpened your perception. Every lonely stretch forced you to build an internal structure that doesn't collapse under pressure. You didn't survive the system, you outgrew it. Now it reacts to you the way organisms react to a virus they can't identify, overcorrecting, misfiring, turning on itself. And you don't rush the ending, because systems don't fall when attacked. They fall when they can't adapt fast enough. Stay calm, stay embedded, stay 3 moves ahead and emotionally unavailable. They thought you disappeared. What they don't understand yet is worse. You didn't leave the game. You learned how to play it from the inside, and now every move they make confirms one thing. They're already responding to someone they never saw coming. And here's the part that turns their stomach when the realization finally brushes past their awareness. You didn't just learn the system, you learned the people who think they are the system. You saw how their confidence isn't built on strength, but on repetition. Say something long enough, loud enough, surrounded by enough agreement, and it feels like truth. You watched them confuse consensus with correctness. You watched them mistake seniority for wisdom. You watched them protect tradition not because it works, but because it protects them. And you cataloged every single one of those weaknesses without ever writing a note. You learned who panics when authority is questioned, who overcompensates when they feel irrelevant, who becomes cruel when their illusion of control slips even an inch. You learned who needs validation like oxygen and who collapses the second applause stops. That's when you stopped fearing them, because fear only survives mystery. And there's nothing scary about a machine once you've seen its wiring. They still think power lives in titles, access, permission. They don't understand that power actually lives in timing, context, and psychology. They don't understand that once someone stops reacting emotionally, they become almost impossible to control. You no longer flinch, you no longer rush, you no longer explain. You let silence do the heavy lifting. Silence is unbearable to people who rely on dominance. They need resistance, they need noise, they need someone to push against. You give them nothing, and in that vacuum, they reveal everything. They start talking too much, justifying things you never questioned, clarifying things you never misunderstood. Their mouths betray what their masks try to hide. You learned that people don't crack under pressure. They crack under uncertainty. So you became uncertainty with a heartbeat. You're calm when chaos would make sense. You're neutral when emotion is expected. You're polite when provocation would be easier. And that unsettles them more than aggression ever could, because aggression fits the script. You don't. They can prepare for enemies. They can't prepare for someone who refuses to play the role they assigned. You don't demand respect. You let competence force it. You don't announce growth. You let results quietly rearrange the hierarchy. That's why their posture around you has changed. They speak slower. They choose words more carefully. They watch your reactions instead of leading conversations. You feel it. The shift from dismissal to curiosity, to caution. They don't know when it happened. They can't pinpoint the moment. They just know that things don't feel the same when you're present. That's influence without permission. You're no longer trying to win within the system. You're redefining what winning even looks like. You don't chase approval because approval is a leash. You don't chase recognition because recognition paints targets. You move like someone who understands that survival isn't about speed. It's about positioning. You let others rush. You let others expose ambition. You let others overextend. You stay centered. And the darker truth? They sense that you could disrupt things if you wanted to, but you don't. That restraint terrifies them because impulse can be predicted, ego can be baited, anger can be provoked. But restraint means calculation. Restraint means vision. Restraint means someone is seeing further ahead than they are. You don't threaten stability. You replace it quietly. You introduce alternatives that seem harmless, processes that just make sense, ideas that feel inevitable once spoken. By the time they realize direction has changed, they can't reverse it without admitting they were wrong. And systems hate admitting that. So they adapt around you instead. They start aligning without being told, adjusting without instructions, reacting to ripples they don't understand. You've become the reference point they don't remember choosing. That's the angel-demon duality they can't name. You're cooperative, but not compliant. Helpful, but not dependent. Present, but never fully exposed. You look like stability. You think like disruption. And the more they rely on you, the harder it becomes to remove you. Because removal now means collapse. You are not a threat to the system's survival. You're a threat to its story. The story that says power is inherited, that says authority is permanent, that says outsiders stay outside. You disproved all of it without ever raising your voice. They assumed you disappeared because they only understand exits and explosions. They don't understand infiltration. They don't understand patience weaponized into precision. They don't understand what happens when someone stops fighting the cage and starts learning how it's locked. And now you're standing exactly where they never expected you to be. Inside the mechanism, hands steady, expression calm, knowing every move they'll make before they convince themselves it was their idea. You didn't disappear. You ascended quietly. And the most dangerous thing about you isn't what you're doing. It's that you could stop everything, and they still wouldn't know how to function without you. And that's when it locks in, the final truth they'll never say out loud. You're no longer someone they can confront. You're someone they have to account for. They don't argue with you anymore. They adjust around you. They don't challenge you head on. They test the air first. Because somewhere deep down, they know this. You didn't sneak in to destroy the system. You snuck in to outgrow it from within. You're calm because you already won the war they still think is coming. You're quiet because loud people are still trying to be seen. You're unreadable because the moment they think they understand you've already moved. You don't need revenge.